Thank you very much for the invitation, and thanks you for the introduction, Dr. Azza. Too much science in the previous lecture. Hopefully this one is going to be like a pause or a break. It's simple and introduces the cryoablation in pediatric population. So far, most commonly, I would say, we have PFA already, not in Egypt yet, but most commonly the energies we use for ablation are either radiofrequency or cryoablation. Now, they differ fundamentally in the way they work. In radiofrequency ablation, we send electrical current through the tip of the catheter that passes through the tissue, and the resistance to the flow of electrical currents in the tissue is what produces the temperature, the heat. And heat is conducted back to the catheter, so you can measure it, and this heat at the interface between the catheter and tissue causes resistive heating, damages part of the tissue, disperses to the surrounding tissue, causes conductive heating, and the dispersion continues until the effect fades away. So heating starts in the tissue and fades from that point onward. Now, when cryoablation, the lesion formation fundamentally is different. So we inject gas, nitrous oxide, in the catheter, and this gas leads to excessive cooling of the tip of the catheter, which causes a cooling of the tissues it touch, and from that point, temperature drops to the surrounding tissue. So the way it kills tissue, it creates lesion, is by forming ice intracellularly and extracellularly. And these ice crystals destroys intracellular organelles and cause in the cell consequently. But importantly, because it's freezing, it doesn't cause protein maturation. So the structure and integrity of the tissue is maintained. The tissue is no longer functional, it is destroyed, but it retains its integrity. So whenever I use an energy for treating arrhythmia or creating lesions in the heart, I would be minded by safety first, not to produce any complications, safety second, to minimize radiology exposure, and finally, I need it to be as effective as possible to reduce its redo. So we might think that cryoablation is suitable for all of these. Is it safe? Yes, in a way, and we will prove that. This is the regular console of cryoablation. This is the console that contains the gas connected by umbilicus to the catheter, and this is the cable for signal that is connected to the recording system. And interestingly, it can be integrated with 3D mapping system to reduce radiation exposure as well. So is it safe, causes reversible electrical effect, and prevent damage to AV node? Yes. And this is for many reasons. One of the most interesting feature with cryoablation is the cryomapping feature. So I can exactly test the response to lesion creation in the site I'm touching by first reducing the temperature to around -30. So at that level, the tissue the catheter touches is not functional. So I have an idea about the efficiency of the location, and also I have an idea whether this site is safe or not. Now, importantly, at this temperature, the lesion I'm creating, or the energy, the effect I'm producing, is completely reversible. So there's no permanent tissue damage at that site. So once I reach a site that is deemed both safe and effective in terms of not inducing heart block and in terms of terminating the tachycardia I'm looking at, I then can reduce the temperature further low to -70, and this is the cutoff where the irreversible lesion creation starts. So the ability of cryo to allow you to cryo map the tissue is a great advantage in cryoablation. And this is the screen we get that monitors, that shows the temperature. This is the tissue temperature around 37, and once you start cryo mapping, the temperature drops to -30, and during this period you observe the response on the tissue, whether there's heart block or elimination of pre-excitation, for example. And once you're happy with the location you have, you then go to cryo-freeze and cryoablate at -70. So this is why it is safe. The other reason why it is safe is because we have evidence that the collateral damage with cryo is minimal. So although this comes from an animal study, but when it is carefully studied, the collateral damage of cryoablation, the remote lesion formation is very minimal with cryoablation, and all coronaries are preserved, probably because of the heat sink mechanism in the coronaries that increases the temperature quickly to prevent any damage in the coronaries. Now, one of the other interesting features about cryoablation that contributes to safety is the cryoadhesion. So, interestingly, once the catheter temperature drops to cryomapping level, it sticks to the tissue. It no longer moves. So once you are at a good spot, both in terms of safety and efficacy, you are sure that no matter how deep the patient breathes, no matter how the heart beats, and even if the tachycardia terminates or you decide to pace to make sure to study the effect of pacing, it won't change. And actually, as a demonstration, when we do cryoablation, once we reach to cryo-freeze within like 45 seconds, you just leave the catheter and it stays where it is, even if you're not holding it. And it will stay there until you thaw the temperature. So this is an additional feature for safety. And again, you can control exactly the lesion depth by controlling the catheter tip. So it is not titratable as the RF. I cannot push the power high up to create larger lesion. If I want larger lesion, I have to choose a larger tip catheter from the beginning. But I cannot titrate the temperature. It's all or none once I use the catheter. But because it preserves the cellular structure and does not cause protein deterioration, the endothelium lining the area I'm ablating at remains intact. And accordingly, thrombogenicity is minimal with cryoablation. This is also contributes to the safety of the catheter. So for all these lesions, we believe it is a very safe form of energy delivery and lesion formation. And yes, it is painless and effective, and we will show how effective. So when do we use cryoablation? Obviously, whenever we're dealing with an arrhythmia that is around dangerous area, around the AV node, be it AVNRT, be it JET, be it accessory pathway in the paraseptal locations, and whenever we're dealing with arrhythmia in highly mobile areas in the heart. So the right free wall area in the right atrium is notorious for being very mobile. So it's difficult to maintain your catheter. If you're using your RF catheter, it's difficult to maintain the position. The cryoablation gives you the advantage of once reaching in the correct location on the right free wall, the catheter sticks to where you want it to stick, and it doesn't move from there. So it's advantageous there. And of course, when you're ablating near the coronaries, like in the LVOT. So what is the evidence we have for that? Everyone likes these slides, and you can compare the safety of cryoablation in AVNRT, in specifically pediatric population. Still, it's very effective. The acute success rate and the delayed recurrence are comparable to RF, but you rarely see this number in medicine ever. No one describes zero complication in anything. But yes, cryoablation in AVNRT in children is very safe for all the reasons we described before, and we have the evidence that. And interestingly, when you combine it with 3D mapping system, and it is integrated with 3D mapping system, you get both benefits. You get the benefit of safety and the benefits of reducing fluoroscopy. So you can be very helpful to your patient as well. Now, again, when we chose cryo, we chose it for arrhythmias around the AV node. And the most notorious arrhythmia around the AV node is the JET, because very frequently the substance is actually within the AV node or the proximal hypocondry system. So cryoablation still offers better results than radiofrequency for targeting these lesions, but because you are ablating very, very closely to the compact AV node, it is not bulletproof. It is not as safe as you would. I cannot show you the 0% complication rate if you're deciding to use it. Still, it is better than radiofrequency, and still it's more effective because it allows you to map areas, multiple areas, but there is a risk of mechanical complications and there's a risk of AV block. And again, this is another report that described almost no complication from the jet, but again, you cannot bet your life on this. Now, the accessory pathway, again, very, very effective. And you can see here that even more effective than radio frequency in some instances, probably because of the cryoadhesion feature of cryoablation, because it sticks to the tissue and it creates durable lesion at that site. And again, the complication rate is very, very low, almost near zero. So, in my conclusion, we believe, or at least in my belief, I believe that cryoablation is reasonable option, reasonable first-line option for pediatric population because it combines both safety and efficiency for pediatric population. Thank you very much.
Questions?
Availability recently, it's not that available. It is still more expensive than. It is this good, unfortunately. I mean, it is that good. The thing is that we've been using RF for a very long time. We've got significantly better with radio frequency. We've known where the problems come from, and we've got better and better in avoiding it. And yes, there are still conditions where the patient himself, I was just discussing with Dr. Husseini today about a patient who read about cryoablation and specifically requested to be treated with cryoablation for fear of any complications related to AV node. So yes, there will be conditions where you offer cryoablation. The only concern some of us have with cryoablation is potentially the risk of recurrence might be slightly higher. Okay. Now this is debatable. I mean, the more recent evidence does not support this conclusion, but the early stages with cryo, you had slightly higher recurrence than with radio frequency. Probably because of the way it was used. Now we deliver more lesion, more booster lesion. It is not as, when you deliver cryoablation, you don't deliver it the same way as radio frequency. You get a lot of booster regions in the region you are ablating. So I think with this approach, the recurrence rate are better. But yes, I would prefer it as a first line if I had this opportunity. Or Medtronic to be more sensible about their prices. Okay, thank you very much.
Shall we end this session?
Thank you, professors. I would like to invite you to a coffee break. Yes, thank you.